All right. So, hi everyone. I'm so glad you are joining us this autumn evening for our first district-wide virtual cooking night this school year. Some of y'all may have joined us last year for our four-part series. So we are so glad to see all of your familiar and also new faces, and to see all of your families and kitchens again, and to gather together to bake as a Durham Public Schools community. So my name is Hannah Ball-Damberg. I am a farm educator at the Durham Public Schools Hub Farm, which is Durham Public Schools' 30-acre outdoor learning campus located next door to Eno Valley Elementary in North Durham. And at the Hub Farm, we engage the DPS community in meaningful outdoor experiences. So come on out and visit us if you haven't. We have lots of events coming up this fall. And I am joined tonight by my colleague, Chef Peter Brodsky of the Northern High School Culinary Arts Department, along with Raina Bunag and Deanna High of Durham's Innovative Nutrition Education Program, or DINE, out of the Durham County Health Department. And the Hub Farm, Northern Culinary, and DINE have partnered together for the last 4 years on farm-to-table projects and field trips. So we're really excited to engage our DPS community in another evening of virtual cooking. So just a few Zoom norms for tonight. If everyone wouldn't mind keeping their microphone on mute unless we ask you to come off mute, that'll be really helpful so you can hear our presenters. If you have any questions, please feel free to direct those to the chat. We will also be having some polls and some other fun engagement in the chat, so feel free to respond to those questions there. Also, I hope that y'all got an opportunity to review our apple hand pie recipe ahead of time. If not, again, we'll be going through that tonight. And also, feel free to turn on your video. We'd love to see all of your faces cooking along with us tonight and to see all of your families. All right. And social media, we would love for you to tag us tonight, hashtag DPS Cooking Night or hashtag We Are DPS. You can also follow the Hub Farm, Culinary, and DINE here on Twitter and Instagram. You can go ahead and follow us there. And these are all photos from previous years where we've worked with our culinary arts students at the Hub Farm. And last but not least, apple hand pies. This is what we're going to be baking together tonight. So this evening, we're going to make apple hand pies to celebrate fall and North Carolina Crunch, which is a celebration of National Farm to School Month and North Carolina agriculture. So a little bit of history about the apple. So though apples grow readily in the North Carolina mountains, apples are non-native to North America. And they actually originated in what is now modern-day Kazakhstan, which is in Central Asia, east of the Caspian Sea. And there they grew as wild, sour, small little crab apples. And by about 1500 BC, so over thousands of years ago, apple seeds had been carried throughout Europe, where they were cultivated by the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans. By 1300 BC, Egyptians began planting orchards along the Nile Delta. And ancient Greeks learned different grafting techniques in 800 BC, while ancient Romans planted apple orchards in modern-day Britain in 200 BC. So finally, in the 1500s AD, in our time now, Spaniards brought apples to Mexico and South America. And by the 1600s, apples had made their way to North Carolina by way of European colonists. So today, our state, North Carolina, actually ranks 7th in apple production in the US and has over 14,000 acres of apple orchards in the foothills and in the mountain regions, where the cool temperatures and fertile soil provide wonderful growing conditions. And early North Carolinians grew apples for their family to use and not to sell. They ate some apples and they fed some to their animals. They pressed most of the crop for the juice needed to make cider and vinegar. Apple cider, as some of us have had before, keeps well for a long time, though there was no refrigeration then. It was safe to drink when people could not find clean water. Settlers also used vinegar to help preserve the food they needed to survive in the winter. Over time, farmers began growing enough apples to sell, and after the railroad was invented in the late 1800s, North Carolinian apple distribution began across the US. So the 4 major varieties in North Carolina are Red Delicious, which some of us might have had before, Golden Delicious, Rome Beauty, and Stamen. A few of these species have become endangered or extinct, and those are now known as heirloom or antique varieties. So though we've lost about 1,300 of those varieties in North Carolina, many of these apple trees have actually survived on large pieces of land that were once farmed or have been abandoned. And some of those North Carolina heirloom apple varieties include Ginger Gold, Hoover, and Arkansas Black. You can buy local North Carolina apples in Durham at the Durham Co-op, Perkins Orchard, or at Farmer Food Share, or you can travel westward to the mountains for even more options. So that is all from me for now. That was a little bit about North Carolinian apple history, but I am now going to pass it back to Miss Raina and Miss Deanna to teach us a little bit about the nutritional side of apples before Chef Brodsky leads us in our actual recipe making.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. I am Raina from the Dine team, working here with Deanna, who you already heard from. And Hannah, that was really great information. I learned a lot. So thank you for sharing all of that. We learned some really great agriculture, and Deanna and I put together some nutrition information to share with you all today. So we know apples are great, but we're going to talk a little bit more about why they're great and what other foods they're related to that we want to eat a lot of to feel healthy and strong. So yeah, we're presenting nutrition in one bite. So we can go to the next slide, please. In a sec. So as Hannah said, we are here celebrating the NC Crunch. We've been celebrating all month of October. And Hannah, I won't talk too much because Hannah already discussed it, but at the time we all crunch on North Carolina apples or other produce together, and we're celebrating North Carolina farmers like Hannah and other farmers at the Hub Farm, agriculture, so all the awesome food we grow here in our state, farm to school. So you all are so lucky to have a rich farm to school program in Durham and DPS with local food pops up in the cafeterias. You have the Hub Farm. Chef Brodsky is teaching how to cook with all this local food to his culinary students, and it sounds like sharing with the district. And then there's lots of other great programs like our Dine Nutrition program and school garden work by Interfaith Food Shuttle. So lots of groups working together in Durham, and we call that farm to school. And we're also celebrating healthy food, and that's what we're going to talk about today for just a couple minutes before we get cooking, which I know is the reason everyone's here. All right, so we can go to the next slide. And can you all hear me okay? Maybe give me a thumbs up. We're hearing, okay, awesome. We are in close proximity to each other, so we have our masks on to be safe, but just want to make sure you can hear us. We wanted to show you my plate, and I bet many of you have seen my plate before, but we are going to show it to you again. It shows us the 5 healthy food groups that we want to try to eat every day, or at least most days, and that's fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. And the reason it's a plate, instead of what it used to be a food pyramid. It's like a plate, so we can visualize what we're eating, and we can see if what we're eating kind of matches up to those food groups and those proportions on our plate. So whether we're eating from a plate or a bowl or a cup, whatever we're eating from, we can kind of think about those or what the food groups should look like, and they can be all mixed up. But I like to point out fruits and vegetables should take up half of our plate. So think about the last meal you ate, whether it was lunch or whether you already ate dinner. Do you think fruits and veggies were half of the food that you ate? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But that's what we want to go for. That should be our goal most days, and we're going to talk about why. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So fruits and vegetables, my personal 2 favorite food groups, we need them all, but these 2 I will say are my favorite, especially when we're talking about farms. But they're so important, fruits and veggies, because they give us things that our body really needs, like dietary fiber, tons of vitamins and minerals, and phytochemicals, which are, phytochemicals are actually the things in our food that, in our fruits and veggies and our other plant food, that give them their color. So phyto just means color, and then chemicals. So we say to eat a rainbow of fruits and vegetables Because when you eat a rainbow, so look at that beautiful fruit and veggie rainbow there. If you can try to eat lots of colors of fruits and vegetables throughout the day, maybe you can eat the whole rainbow in a week. Each of those colors is going to give you different nutrients that helps different parts of our bodies. So we don't need to worry about writing down every single vitamin and mineral and making sure we got it. If we eat all the different colors of fruits and vegetables, then we're probably going to get what our body needs to function at its best. And we can go to the next slide. So these are just some examples. If you're thinking fruits and veggies sound great, but half of our plate sounds like a lot, how are we going to get it in? Just, I'm giving some examples of if you eat it at try to fit in some fruits and veggies at every meal and snacks and even your dessert. Like today we're going to make a really yummy dessert with Chef Brodsky, and we're going to put lots of apples in it. So think about maybe you can eat some fruit with your yogurt or oatmeal at breakfast, and maybe you can add a lot of veggies to your sandwich at lunch, and maybe you're having pasta for dinner, so you can throw some veggies like some spinach and tomatoes in there, and think about crunching on some carrots or other whatever veggies and dip you like to eat, or apples, right? We're promoting apples tonight. That's always a good and really easy snack. And then we can always do a dessert like we're doing tonight, or some fruit salad. So when you think about it a little bit, you can definitely fit in those fruits and veggies when you put them in every meal you're eating. All right, next slide, and this is my last slide. An apple a day. So many of you might have heard that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I cannot promise that, but an apple a day is certainly good for us. It has tons of great nutrients, and I will just share a few of our favorites. So dietary fiber, I've called that out. That's so important. It's in all of our fruits and vegetables, and apples have a lot. It helps our heart and digestive system. So the digestive system that's breaking down all our food. Quercetin is a phytochemical. So remember, we learned that word phytochemical, and it works as an antioxidant. That might be another new word. Antioxidant are just nutrients and chemicals that help protect our body from stress. And this can be inside stress, like we're stressed because we have a big test coming up, or it can be stress maybe from the outside, maybe from chemicals or other things in the environment that our body's exposed to. So there is a lot of quercetin in our apples, and also vitamin C. Most of you have probably heard of vitamin C. We know it's in citrus fruit, but it is also in our apples and tons of other fruits and veggies, and it keeps our bodies healthy all year long. So that is it, and it is time to get cooking. So we'll chat more about nutrition in the chat a little bit later. I'll hand it over to Chef Brodsky.
Hey everybody, Raina, Deanna, thank you so much for all that amazing nutrition information on apples. And Hannah, I learned so much about the history of apples. So this has just been amazing so far. So thank you all very much. I want to introduce my sous chef. This is Dara. So she's going to help me do our apple hand pies. And I see that out there, I saw a lot of people starting to get their apples peeled and sliced, and that's great. Before we get to that in our house, we're going to wash hands real quick, and we're going to talk about the apples that we have. You can see I've got way too many apples here. I went to the store today. I couldn't pick. There were just too many choices. So I wanted to talk about some of the apples we have available to us almost year round here. As Hannah said, we've got the Golden and Red Delicious, both of which are grown in North Carolina. We've got a couple of my favorites here, the Granny Smith, the Fuji, the Honey Crisp, the Gala, and then we've got some oddballs. I don't even remember what we got. Some new ones: the Snapdragon, the Envy, the Jazz, and the Sweet Tango. So we've got some mysteries today. The thing that I want to say about all of these, people will say a lot of things about, oh, this is a baking apple, or this is an eating apple. All apples are great. It's about what you like. If you like Red Delicious, then use Red Delicious. Eat Red Delicious, buy Red Delicious, bake Red Delicious, do whatever you want. Me personally, this apple is the bane of my existence. I'll put that one back there. I will use any apple other than a Red Delicious. So while I wash my hands, Dara is going to randomly select 2 apples for us to use for our hand pies. Good catch. All right, what do you guys think? Did she do okay? She picked Granny Smith and Snapdragon. Do you think those will do? All right, I think so too. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to peel these apples really quick. I really like these Y-shaped peelers. I feel like they're easy. They're the safest, and you can peel very, very quickly and efficiently. I like to do just a little ring at the top and a ring at the bottom. I washed all these apples earlier, I promise. Even though I knew I wasn't going to use them all. So we'll peel those, and what Dara here is going to do, Dara is just going to cut. I like to cut the apples, just treat the core as if it's 4 walls, and just cut the apple away from the core. So Dara is going to do that to both of these apples, and then we'll slice them nice and thin.
Chef Roscoe, we have a question in the chat. It says,
Please.
Granny Smith changed the taste of the hand pie, even with brown sugar.
I'm sorry, could you repeat it?
Does Granny Smith change the taste of the hand pie, even with brown sugar?
Absolutely. So there's something that you get. Do you need help, sweetie? There's something that you get from a Granny Smith that I really enjoy, which is this nice tartness. And some people like it and some people don't. I really like that sour snap of the Granny Smith apple. And we're not going to cook these to death. We're gonna briefly soften them in our butter and brown sugar mixture, and then they'll bake relatively quickly. So they're not going to be mush. So we'll have a little bit of that texture left, and on a nice crisp apple like a Granny Smith, we'll be able to really maintain some of that.
Awesome. And we also have another question that says, what do you think about mixing up the types of apples for the pie?
That's what I do every time. It's what I do when I make apple pies. It's what I do when I make apple fritters and apple quick breads. I think that you get a lot of complexity and depth when you mix different varieties of apples. So I love doing that. I am all for it. Also, I saw out there was something out there that made me so happy that I just wanted to call it out. I saw the Taylor family using one of these gizmos to slice their apples. This is called a mandolin. And these are wonderful for getting nice, consistent, thin slices. So I just wanted to show you all this tool because I saw it out there being used. These are wonderful, but we're not going to use this today because Dara needs to practice her knife skills. So while Dara is slicing these apples nice and thin, using the tip of the knife and just dragging it through, I'm going to preheat our pan and we'll start talking about cooking our apples. All right. So as you can see, I've got a large saute pan warming up, and I've just got it over medium heat right now. And I think our recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of butter. We're going to put that butter in the pan, and we're going to let the butter start to brown a little bit. This really magical thing happens when you brown butter. The flavor changes, and you get this really nutty aroma, and that's going to impart into our apple filling. So we're going to soften our apples in that nice browned butter. These are beautiful. Thank you. You can cut your apples into any shape you want. You can dice your apples. You can slice your apples. You can put your apples in a food processor and mince them into little bits. I really like sliced because you can see the slices when you cut into your pie. May I help you? So we'll go just a tad faster. So we're We're on the clock today. Most of our time is going to be spent with this in the oven. This really is a very, very quick process. I know that all of you saw in the recipe and the emails that today we're going to use a store-bought pie crust. The longest and most time-consuming part of making a pie really is making pie crust. And it's not too tough, but it is a little bit of a time investment. So if the one thing holding you back from making a pie is that you don't want to deal with making crust, there is no shame in buying a pie crust. I do it all the time. Don't tell anybody.
Hey, Jabrowski.
Yes. Hi, Lana. I recognize that voice.
What did you put in the pan? Did you put anything in the pan?
I haven't put anything in the pan yet. Right now, I'm just warming it up. And my pan is actually, we're almost done slicing apples. And my pan is nice and hot. I can feel it radiating heat. So I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to let that brown. And we'll get a little advanced here because Lana's in culinary 3. So Lana, the butter is about 20% water. And what happens is as the water evaporates, the milk solids are able to toast. So your pan has to be hot enough or your butter has to be in there long enough to let the water evaporate. That's why butter sizzles in a pan and oil doesn't. And what we get is we get this nice, just lightly brown butter. And you can smell this beautiful nutty aroma. And that's really going to add a lot of flavor to our apples. We call this beurre noisette.
There's smoke in the hallway. The alarm may sound. It's going to be loud.
It's going to be loud. I'm going to go turn that off. Yeah. So we'll do is we'll just gently slide our apples into the butter. And then I'll turn off the smoke alarm. A little smoke. She's very sensitive when we're on camera. All right, so we've got our apples. They're in our brown butter. We're over medium heat. And now we're going to add our sugars and our salt. And for this, I like to do a mixture of granulated sugar, brown sugar. Our cinnamon, we'll do it at the very, very end. So we really bloom that flavor. And just a pinch of kosher salt. So it's a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Oh, could you add this? A 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. All of that, sprinkle it on in there. And 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. You can just dump the whole dish in. Dump it right in, and then keep stirring. So something that's happening in the pan right now that our science buffs will be able to tell you about. Once we add our sugars to our apples, stay on this side so they can see. Once we add our sugars to our apples, they start to let off a lot of liquid. And this really neat thing is happening called osmosis, where water is being pulled out of the apples into the pan, and it's going to cool the pan down, and the water is going to mix with the sugars and create this really nice syrup. And that syrup we're actually going to use later on. So our apples are starting to soften, and you can see they're getting flexible. They're beautiful. They're separating from each other very nicely. And we'll be ready to remove those from the heat, I would say, in about 1 minute.
Hey everyone, I just threw a question in the chat. You can take a second to answer it while you are sauteing your apples.
All right, so you can see that our apples are really starting to soften now. We're just going to sprinkle in our 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and stir that to coat all the apples. One of the nice things about slicing your apples very evenly, getting them all the same size, is that they all cook at the same speed. So all of these apples are going to soften together. What do you think, kiddo? 30 more seconds? All right, move the pan too. Beautiful. How does it smell? Really good? Good. Means we're headed in the right direction. All right, we're ready. So we've got this nice bubbly syrup. Our apples are soft, they're flexible, looking very, very good. And what we'll do is we'll actually just move them. I'm gonna move them out of the pan mostly to help them cool. And you can move them into a bowl or onto a plate. But what we wanna do is we wanna get these cooled down while we prepare our pie crust, so they're a little easier to work with. Our bowl. Cinnamony, sugary apples. We'll pop them.
Chef, I'm a little bit behind.
Oh, take your time.
Could you tell us the measurements again of what you put after you put the 2 tablespoons of butter?
Yes, it was 2 large apples, a
Yep.
1/4 cup of sugar,
Mm-hmm.
tablespoons of brown sugar,
Mm-hmm.
1/3 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's see. 2 large apples, a 1/4 cup. Oh, look, Deanna's got it right there. 1/4 cup sugar, 2 tablespoons brown sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Perfect. Yeah, so our apples now, they're softened, they're cooling, and we can start getting our dough prepared. The recipe calls for you to have a lined baking sheet. So that can be a baking sheet with parchment paper, or I like to use these silicone baking mats. So I've got that nearby and ready to go. And what we'll do is we'll get our little mini pie crusts ready, and we'll fill them and we'll get them prepared for the oven.
Great. And so just so everyone knows, we had a poll to see if this is your first time attending a virtual family cooking night. It looks about even. We have about half of us have attended and about half of us have not. So welcome those of you who have not attended yet. We're so glad you're here. And also thank y'all for coming back and coming to bake with us again.
Absolutely. Very exciting to hear that we've got a good mix of new folks and old folks. So you can see I've got this store-bought pie crust here. You can get these in a couple different formats. You can find them rolled like this. These ones tend to misbehave a little bit more frequently. You can also find them just like this. You can find these pre-made pie shells in aluminum foil tins ready to go. So I know a lot of people are stressing about, what am I going to do for Thanksgiving? Am I having people? Am I not having people? Do I have to make food? Do I want a pie? You can make pies ahead of time. They freeze really well. I always keep a couple of these pie shells in the freezer. I've got plenty of extra apples today, so there might be an apple pie happening later. But for right now, what Dara and I are going to do is we're going to take this pie crust. This is enough crust for 1 pie. We're going to cut this into 4 even pieces. I'm just going to take these and we're going to squish them up. We're going to make little balls.
Chef Brodsky, on the recipe, it said 3, 2, 1 pie crust. What does that mean? And we'd never heard of it.
Oh, thank you so much for asking that, Deanna. So the normal pie crust that I would make, excuse me, for this or for most pies, and this pie crust that I bought from the store is called a 3-2-1 crust. And that's the ratio for how you make these crusts. It's 3 parts flour, 2 parts fat, which can be butter, it can be Crisco, typically a solid fat, a saturated fat, and 1 part very, very cold liquid. So it could be water, or when I was a kid, my mom, when she made apple pie, instead of water for the pie crust, she would use apple juice. Some folks swear by vinegar or a few other things, but it's 3 parts flour, 2 parts fat, 1 part liquid. And what you get is this very, very tender, very delicate, very flaky pie crust. So those of you that were with us, I believe we did it last year. I can't remember what type of pie we did.
We still made apple.
We did chocolate chess pie, right?
Chocolate chess pie, that's right. So that would be the same type of pie crust we made for that one. And again, it's a very simple process, but it's a little time consuming, and I wanted to make sure we all were able to get these into the oven and onto our tables for dessert. So what we've got here, we've got our pie crust separated out into 4 even balls. And what we're going to try to do is gently roll this into a flat circle. And pie crust, because it's so high in fat, it really does not need much flour, if any, on the table. As long as you're delicate with it, and don't push too hard, you can just roll it out and it will expand very, very quickly. What you don't want to do with pie crust is let it get too warm where it'll really start to melt on you. So we're going to try to make these into about 6-inch circles. That's what we're shooting for. And once we have 4 of those 6-inch circles, our apples should be cool enough that we can get these filled and ready to go into the oven. How's that look? Good? Your turn. I need 4 that are this big.
Chef Brodsky, while you all are rolling out the little the dough, Deanna and I just wanted to mention something about the apple peels. I put it in the chat, but we were thinking about this before we started cooking, and we wanted to find a use for the apple peels, because the apple peels have tons of the nutrients in the apple. So we want to eat them whenever we can, but we know it doesn't make sense for this recipe to keep them on. But if you save your apple peels, you can put them in smoothies to add some flavor and nutrition. You can even make a tea with them. If you just put them in some boiling water, it'll have a sweet apple flavor tea. And you can make jelly with them. We found some recipes online for jelly. And there was one more.
Apple chips. So
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
following us on Instagram at dime.nutrition, you can find our baked apple chip recipe up there, and you can use your apple peels for apple chips.
Those ideas all sound great, and I immediately feel terribly guilty for putting them in the compost. I thought I was really being good, and now I could have made apple chips.
The compost is good too, but next time, Chef Brodsky, you'll save it to get that extra nutrition for sure.
Absolutely. All right, so to save Dara from the woes of having this stick to her rolling pin, I'll give her a tiny bit of flour to work with. A tiny bit. That's all you get. A little bit bigger. A little bit bigger and a little bit rounder. Hannah, do we have another poll question out there?
Why, funny you should ask, Brodsky. I just threw one up there. So y'all, how did you hear about tonight's event? Did you hear via email, social media like Instagram or Facebook, Peach Jar? Maybe you got an email from your school, or did you hear from a friend or a family member? Go ahead and put your answers in the poll so we can see what we got here. It looks like most of us heard either through Peach Jar. Oh, I was hearing some feedback. Most of us heard either through Peach Jar, from our flyers through our schools, or through email. So that is awesome. Thank you guys for participating. That's good information to have for our next virtual cooking night.
I thought friends and family was going to win.
Only one person heard through friends and family.
Wow.
Yeah.
We need to start talking to our friends and family more.
Okay, here's one more that I'm interested in. Have you ever visited our DPS hub farm, which is where I work? I would love to know. Have you ever visited our DPS hub farm located right next to Eno Valley Elementary School in North Durham? I know Dara has. Okay, looks like most of us have. That's awesome. Oh, we're right around just a few. Yep.
All right, last one.
Great. Most of us have visited. Some of us have not. If you have not visited, stay tuned on our Instagram for all of our upcoming events at the Hub Farm. We have all kinds of free community events. We'd love to have you out. All right, back to you, Chef Brodsky.
I'm just over here tasting that syrup from the pan. Don't mind me. All right, so Dara here is just rolling out our fourth and final pie shell. So we're going to go ahead and get these stuffed and finished and into the oven. So while she is doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about finishing these. Your recipe, you'll see, calls for 1 egg and 2 teaspoons of milk. And what we're going to make with that is just a very, very simple egg wash. I actually already did it because I baked off a few of these before class. Shh, don't tell anybody. And what this egg wash is going to do for us, it's going to give us a really shiny finish on our pies. So if you have an extra hand in the kitchen that's waiting for pies to be rolled out, take that egg and milk, mix them together. And if you don't have a brush, that's okay. You can brush this on with just a finger or a spoon. And we've got all of our pie crusts ready. So we'll get our apple filling back out. And this has cooled down quite a bit. It's not ice cold, but this is going to work perfectly. And you'll see that down at the bottom of this bowl, we've got this really beautiful kind of sugary, cinnamony apple glaze. What we're going to try to do is kind of separate our apples away from that. We want some of it to come with us, but I like to keep some for the end, and I'll just drizzle it over my pie when I serve it with ice cream. Is this one giving you a hard time? It's okay. This one can be the funny looking one. Every batch needs a funny looking one.
Hey, Chef, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
For vegan, like vegetarians, like my husband is there a substitute for egg white that I can use in here?
Yeah, so actually just a little bit of like a blend oil, canola oil, brushed across the top of your pie crust will actually work really well for this. It'll give you that nice shine. And also for you, this will be doubly important. After that oil, you're just going to want to sprinkle with a little bit of additional sugar. For this, I'm going to use what's called sugar in the raw. It's called demerara sugar. But if you don't have that on hand, regular granulated sugar is just fine. And that again gives you this really nice shine when they come out of the oven.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take about a quarter of our apple filling, and you're not going to get it perfect. That's okay. We're going to put it right in the center of each of these. And again, we want some of that syrup, but not too much, or they get a little hard to handle. So take a quarter of our filling. We'll put it in each of our little circles of dough. I don't know where it is. That's in the pantry. That's okay. Okay, where were we? I'm sorry. So we took, here, you do the last one. So we took about a quarter of our filling, switch that. We put it in each one, and now we're just gonna fold them in half into this little half moon shape, kind of like an empanada. We'll try to keep all of our apples inside. It won't always work. Sometimes you get a runner. And then we're just going to crimp these together. And the way that I do that is with the back of a fork. So we're just going to take the back of this fork. We're going to press it into our dough. And it's going to leave these nice little lines, and it's going to squeeze together our top and bottom layer and trap in all that delicious juice from those apples and keep our apples from escaping. And once we've done that, once we've got these little half moon shapes, we're ready to go onto our tray. If you find it easier to make squares out of your pie crust, you can do squares and fold them in half and get triangles. That works too.
Chef Brodsky,
Yes.
just so you know, Susan Brooks from CTE is on tonight with her granddaughter.
I saw that and I didn't have time to type in the chat, but hi, Susan, I miss you.
Susan, you're on.
Oh, yep, I just unmuted. Hey, Hannah, because I didn't mean to leave you out. And hey, Peter, and it's so good to see you guys.
Very nice to see you too. We miss you.
Great to see
Oh,
you, Susan.
I miss you guys too, but I do love retirement.
We're right behind you. We've only got 30 years to go.
So
Well,
close.
not quite, Peter, y'all don't have quite 30 now, come on.
That's okay. We got a leaky one. That's all right. Well, let's do this. You move on to that one and I'll show them how we fix this leaky one. Because that's a good thing. I think everyone will probably have at least one leaky one. Right? So we take these, we fold them in half, we crimp them together, and Dara's got one. It's just maybe we went a little too much on the stuffing. Maybe we went a little too much on our liquid. Or maybe it was our fold. We'll open it back up and try to pile everything back into the middle. We'll see if we can get it closed. And again, these are going to ooze a little bit in the oven. It's going to give you this really, really great kind of chewy caramel exterior. And even if they look like they're leaking and all messed up, they will be just fine in the end. See?
These look great. So Chef Brodsky, this is Raina and Deanna again. And just a quick thought, we were talking about fruits and vegetables a lot. And one thing that comes up a lot when we teach kids about nutrition is sometimes kids and adults don't like fruits and vegetables in a certain way. So maybe you don't like raw apples, but you really like the taste of them when they're cooked because they're soft and the taste is so different. So I would just encourage all of the little chefs out there to try fruits and vegetables in lots of different ways. And the parents and other grownups out there, don't get discouraged when trying to serve fruits and vegetables. Think about finding a different way that they're cooked and whether that will go over better.
Absolutely. Dara, tell them what the rule is. How many times do you have to taste something before you're allowed to say that you don't like it? 5 times. And then do you still have to try it?
Yes.
Good. All right, so we've got our hand pies folded. We've got them crimped. We've got them on camera. And now what Dara's going to do, she's just going to gently brush them with this egg wash all the way down through all of our little fork marks and all the way across on all of them. And I'll come behind her and I'll just sprinkle them with this little bit of sugar. Again, that'll give a little bit of sweetness to our crust, but it's also going to give them this really, really beautiful shine when they come out of the oven.
Brodsky, any tips for folding?
If you are having trouble keeping all the filling inside, do a little bit less filling. If you are having a lot of trouble keeping all of your filling inside, try to roll your pie crusts a little bit bigger. Those are my 2 big ones. Also, as pie crust warms up, it gets less and less likely to do what you want it to do. Warm pie crust loves to misbehave. So when I take my pie crust out of the refrigerator, I try to work with it pretty quickly so it doesn't get all wobbly on me. But yes, the folding is hard. And the good news is this: even if they look totally crazy going into the oven, I promise they will be beautiful coming out. And even if they are hideous coming out, we are going to finish them with some nice apples and dressing, and at my house, maybe a little bit of ice cream, as long as we don't tell the nutrition people. All right, so I've got an oven preheated to 400 degrees, everyone. These are folded, they're crimped, they're egg washed, they're sprinkled with a little bit of sugar, and we're gonna bake these for about 18 to 20 minutes. Really, it depends on your oven. When they look beautiful and golden brown, take them out. So while those are cooking, I'll show you what we have. I made a little batch earlier, and mine were hideous. I tried to score my first batch so that they would have a nice slash on the top, and they ended up kind of looking a little funky. So they're a little bit broken apart. They're a little bit uneven on the browning, but they are still all the same ingredients, and they're going to be delicious. So what we can do is we can take some of this. Dar, would you see if there's some little ice cream?
Chocolate chip. We just have chocolate chip. I can check out that.
Sure, go check out that.
All right, y'all, I'm gonna throw one more question up here. Another poll question. So what best captures the reason why you decided to attend tonight's event? Was it about the overall experience, getting to cook with everyone? Was it clearly Chef Brodsky's amazing cooking skills? Or was it tonight's featured dish, which is apple hand pies? Let's see what everyone thinks. So far, the overall experience is our resounding answer, which is awesome. Chef Brodsky's amazing cooking skills coming in hot right behind that.
I want to answer Valerie Brown real quick. Valerie, for these, I would not recommend splitting the top. I've done it both ways. I think these look a little bit better with the top whole, and we don't really need to let that steam escape like we would if we were making a huge apple pie. But Hannah, please go on about Chef Brodsky's incredible cooking skills. I'm enjoying that part.
It looks like people are here tonight for the overall experience, which is so awesome. So we're all here to get to bake together on this Wednesday evening and get to celebrate autumn and apples, which is great. And also Chef Brodsky's amazing cooking skills.
Of course, of course.
Of course.
And I will tell you my biggest mistake of the week is that when I was at the Hub Farm yesterday, I did not get any fresh mint, because that would have been just a perfect finish for this. Okay, sweetheart, not a big deal. Because I will tell them the greatest restaurant trick to hiding an ugly hand pie. Look great.
That looks very tasty.
Right.
We have a question. How long should they be in the oven? How long should our hand pies be in the oven?
At 400 degrees, these are going to take 18 to 20 minutes. Dar, can you go pet Orion? Can you go pet Orion, please? Thank you. So 18 to 20 minutes, it really does depend on your oven. After about 10 minutes, I would take a look. I would rotate the pan. A lot of us have ovens with hot spots that can misbehave sometimes. So keep an eye on them. They will be golden brown, aromatic, and kind of bubbling and oozy when they are ready. The good news about this, your apple filling is done. It's cooked. You're really not, all you are waiting for in the oven right now is for your pie crust to brown.
Awesome. So how long should they cool? So how long should they let it cool?
As soon as you think that they are cool enough to put in your mouth without burning you, that's when I would eat them. So I really like to have these warm out of the oven with a nice cold scoop of ice cream. If I'm very, very lucky, my wife is at the grocery store right now getting vanilla ice cream. And if not, I'm going to text her to do that. But honestly, these can actually sit out on the counter for 2 to 3 days. And you can have them at room temperature. You can eat them cold. You can eat them warm. They really will be great no matter how you choose to enjoy them. Great questions. Yes, I do see that. I would love to do these with any other fruit. Right now is a great time of year for apples. And I am going to make sure that whoever is at the door does not get assaulted by the dog. So give me just a moment.
So while we're waiting for that, I hope everyone is, their kitchens are smelling real good. I know ours are smelling good and we haven't even put it in the oven yet, but just baking or cooking the apples on the stove are really great. I love the idea of putting it with other fruits. If you all have any other ideas for other desserts or other fruit ideas you're getting inspiration about tonight, feel free to share those in the chat. We love to share food ideas with each other. We get ideas for new favorite foods.
Absolutely, we do with blueberries. Also, would you like to come and try this?
Yeah.
Before I eat the whole thing?
Yeah.
Also, something I'd love to see in the chat. We've yet to talk about what our next family cooking night is going to look like. We would love to have input from you. If there's something that you all desperately want to make, if you want to make something sweet, if you want to make something savory, let us know.
Chef Brodsky, Brandlin said that pears with ginger and cinnamon would be a really great combo for our hand pies.
That sounds great. Is that for these hand pies? That's because that might go on to our Thanksgiving menu now.
That sounds amazing. And we're getting a lot of ideas. People want to see pizza maybe for another cooking night, or we got shepherd's pie, flatbread pizza, holiday cookies, savory winter comfort food. Wow, we've got some great ideas here, y'all. Keep throwing those in the chat. Chicken and
dumplings. I love it.
Chili.
Yes.
All sounds so delicious. Cinnamon rolls. Wow, we've got lots of great ideas.
You guys are really putting the pressure on.
Hey Chef Brodsky, do you recommend cooking it in a glass tray or a full sheet tray?
I would do a metal, like a cookie tray, Lana, like a half sheet tray. If you have, if what you have available is a glass dish, it'll work just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So a metal tray, Lana, is going to heat up a little bit faster, and it's going to help you get nice browning on both sides of your pie crust. With all the cupcakes, peach pie, pumpkin pastries, chicken orzo soup. These are great ideas, everybody.
Dad, we might have to step up our game.
Yeah, I was gonna do chocolate chip cookies or something. You guys are really a lot of pressure.
What's going to be growing at the farm this winter around the cooking night time?
Great question. So we'll have lots of our winter greens growing. Greens like kale or collards. We'll have some root vegetables like radishes, turnips, carrots, beets. We should also have a lot of herbs, things like parsley and cilantro. Yeah, those kinds of vegetables.
Sounds great. Also, I just noticed that we are getting close to the end of our time. Dara, you have a message there. So I just wanted to say to everyone, if you guys want to take yourselves off mute, please do show us how your process is going. And yeah, we'd love to kind of hang out and chat with you for a little bit. Dara and I are going to be here waiting for our hand pies to come out, so we're happy to hang back with you. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming. These are really, really fun. And to the folks over at Dine, Deanna and Raina, thank you so much for all the information. And Hannah for putting this whole thing together. It's just amazing.
Hey, Broski, this is what it looks like so far. It did rip a little bit, like he said, but.
Hang on, I can't see you. I gotta find you, Lana.
No. It's, yeah. Right over here.
Oh, hi, I see you. Those look great, Lana.
Thank you.
Those look awesome.
Thank you guys so much for coming. David, Jasmine, thank you all so much.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and I've got just one or two more questions for everyone if you want to fill out the poll. So how likely are you to recommend our virtual family cooking night to others? From 1, which is not likely at all the way to 5, which is extremely likely. We would love to hear what you think. We're getting all 5s across the board. Love to see this. Great. We will be keeping everyone posted about our next one.
YS.
And I'm going to ask one more question of folks. Awesome. People are still responding. Great. Awesome.
Yes, Brandy Lynn, everyone that was on the mailing list for tonight will be kind of automatically get an email before the next one. And everybody obviously keep an eye on the social media for Durham Public Schools and the Hub Farm and Dine. Also, oh, Hannah, did you talk about the hashtags for tonight?
I did, yes. Hashtag
Okay.
We Are DPS and hashtag DPS Cooking Night. If you want to post any photos of your apple hand pies or your family cooking tonight, we would love to see those. And our last question is, how likely are you to attend another virtual family cooking night in the future? So we've got 5 extremely likely and 1 is not likely at all. Looks like a lot of us are interested in joining again in the future. We would love to see
You have to come. You have to go 5.
We would love to see everyone back. We would also love for you to invite your friends and other family members, maybe some school friends. Would love to see some new faces and old faces as well. Awesome. I'm going to end that one. Thanks for answering all of our questions and engaging with us that way.
I can't wait to eat my apple ham pies.
I hope it's really good.
Yay! We can't wait.
It's gonna be yummy.
Go ahead and wash back up, okay?
Deanna and I are also staying around if anyone has nutrition questions. We're here in the Dine kitchen waiting for our hand pies, so we'll be around, and like Chef Brodsky said, you can hang out and take yourself off mute, and we'll just wait for the pies together and maybe taste them together.
To the Millers, I think that we could maybe do dumplings next time or the time after. We'll have to see what we can get from the farm and what our schedule looks like. But I think that's a great idea. To Dara's school friends, always thank you guys for coming.
Pumpkin spice cupcakes.
Pumpkin spice cupcake sounds pretty good. Pumpkin spice cupcakes would have been good for today, though. It's October. It's like it looks like pumpkin spice outside.
Thank you so much. Thank you for a wonderful evening.
Oh, thank you for coming, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Libby, Kate, are yours in the oven?
Yep. Yeah.
How do they look?
Good. Some of them look good. Some of them were.
That's okay. They're not all supposed to look good. Some of them have to go to your parents. Alexandra, are yours oozy and bubbly yet?
Pretty sure. I mean, we looked in the oven once or twice, so I think.
Are they still in there?
Uh-huh.
That's a good sign.
All right, y'all, we're gonna say goodnight to our live streaming audience. This is our Zoom audience, but we also had a live stream audience on Facebook.
leave.
So we can all say goodnight to our live
Okay.
stream audience.
What's that?
We're gonna stop
I'm
the
gonna leave. Is that okay?
Bye, live streaming. Good night.
Thank you, guys.